I moved in with my boyfriend and his parents, but they keep changing their house rules. So I was explaining this to my sister, and one of my friends and their mouths literally dropped when I told them. So I want to share it here and see if it actually is as crazy as the reactions make it seem. By the way, this comes from Electronic Wolf 6173 on the OK Storytime subreddit. So when I was 17, I was kicked out of my mother's house. That's an entirely different story, but my boyfriend and his parents took me in. When I first moved in, my boyfriend took the couch and I took his room. We'd close the door. He'd stay in my room late. His parents allowed that for an entire week. Dang. Eventually, we all sat down and his parents explained the rules set for me and him to us, which were my new room door had to be open at all times. If I were to be in his room, which got switched from the living room to the basement, we had to keep the door open there too. Due to me being in school at the time, we had to be out of the room by 11. And if we wanted to spend more time together, then we needed to be in the living room. I had to split my boyfriend's chore of doing the dishes. Those were all the rules they presented to us. Everything was fine for a while until his parents started to pull weird stuff. And I mean weird as in they would act like they never said something when they did, or randomly add a rule or boundary that was never discussed or existed until they confronted us. Me and my boyfriend were down in the basement, laying on his bed, just listening to music. His dad came down and went to another part of the basement to do laundry. The stairs are right next to his bed, but there's a wall covering it. And before his dad went upstairs, he leaned over and looked at us, went back upstairs, and then texted my boyfriend saying that he never remembers telling us that we could be down in the basement together and that it doesn't matter anyways. He doesn't want us down there anymore because it defeats the purpose of keeping an eye on us. Like, they're in the basement. The door's not closed. Get
my house, my
monitor.
rules. My house, our house, our rules.
Honestly, yeah.
Get your own house.
Honestly, yeah, even though it sucks.
Yeah.
And they're going about it. It seems like, we'll keep reading, but it seems like they're going about it in sketchy
True.
ways. So
We were annoyed because he clearly stated we could, but didn't argue and just went upstairs. We decided to go to a park near our house around 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. I was doing online school at this point, so I was usually home all day. As soon as we get to the park, my boyfriend's mom texts the group chat that me, her, and my boyfriend had and says to him, not me, Kelly needs to be back by 11. This instance was annoying because she never mentioned a curfew outside of the house. Not once. I didn't know that being out of the room by 11 because I had school also applied to being in the house by 11. It was annoying because it was sprung on me out of nowhere. It wasn't told to me directly and no one sat me down to talk about it. I wasn't the one who argued about it. My boyfriend did. I told him to stop though because it just wasn't worth it to me. There was a time when me and my boyfriend were in my room. The door was open and we were under my covers watching a movie on his TV. I didn't know it at the time, but his mom texted him saying that we had been under the covers too long. He told me he ignored her message because we weren't doing anything inappropriate and she could see directly into our room.
you get 10 minutes of undercover time.
And then you got to go over the cover.
Go over the cover.
The 11 o'clock rule, I was told, was only because I was still in school. After I graduated and we moved, I got settled into my new room and my boyfriend was there with me. 11 rolled around and I got a text saying that the rules still applied.
Oh.
If we want to spend time together past 11, we had to be in the living room. This pissed me off because to me, why tell us that this rule is in place for this specific reason, and then when that reason no longer applies, keep it going? I just felt that his parents could have communicated better and told us that the rule was an all-around one and not just because I was in school. She put me on birth control,
Whoa.
but didn't tell me until we were already on our way to the appointment. This annoyed me because, again, I felt like this was something I should have been able to at least talk about before taking the step to do it. That is totally unacceptable.
Whoa, so unacceptable. You can't make medical decisions for someone.
That's totally unacceptable. Also, just like, that is a huge hormonal change.
Yeah, birth control messes so many people up.
Yeah. But like that is an individual decision for every, person with those parts to make. You can't tell anyone to do that.
I was gonna say your house, your rules, but it's my body, my rules.
Your house, your rules, my vagina, my rules.
100%. And you could make the crappy rule, you can't be in my house unless you're on birth control.
Yeah, but you can't take her to the doctor's appointment and be
say,
like,
this is what
is
going to happen. It would still be really crappy to do that and to put that ultimatum, even though it's within your power, still would be really crappy. But again, to take someone to an appointment.
Yeah. They kept telling me and my boyfriend that we couldn't sleep in the same room together because I wasn't 18 yet, and he was. basically making it seem like we could once I turned 18. Then told us that they don't care if I'm 18, we can't sleep together. Which again, I understand if they aren't comfortable with it, but I don't understand why they made us think we could for months and then told us differently at the last second. I was talking to my boyfriend's mom about something and she admitted to me that she didn't like me and his general closeness. There was another time he was put out for the night and I sat and talked to his mom about why she did that. And she mentioned that he used to cuddle with her when he was younger and then said, obviously that love language is getting fulfilled now that you're here. And I don't know if she meant that in a negative way. We sat down and talked about the fact that we want everyone to clear their plates before putting it in the kitchen and to stop leaving all their food out unopened on the counter. His mom said she understood and knows that it isn't fair to us to be doing that. Not even a month later, I walk into the kitchen and there's meat all over the stoves, plates of food sitting on the counter, dried sauce with chunks in it on the counter, beer cans all over the counter, and food in the drain. And no one but me and my boyfriend in the house. It happened again, but everyone was in the living room watching TV. They were recording or eavesdropping on me and my boyfriend's conversations. All I know is that there were times when me and him simply vented, or he was angry and venting, and his dad would confront us about what we said when he wasn't there the night before, or he'd confront us as we were talking about it. His parents no longer like me because I'm struggling to find a job. I've been looking for one since I was 17. My deadline to have one was on my 18th birthday. I've had interviews. I've called even when I didn't have a phone. I called now that I do have a phone. I'm applying every day. I'm making it known I'm interested. I'm doing everything I can. But this town I live in isn't very big and it's just hard. But my boyfriend's mom just thinks I'm sitting in my room doing nothing. This is so hard because obviously OP probably doesn't have any other options than this family. But obviously this family is just pushing all of these boundaries or not even letting her have any boundaries and just saying, oh, well, you're in our house.
Yeah, and consistently switching up their boundaries without explanation or advance.
My boyfriend's mom got upset with me because I chose to get a job instead of going to in-person college classes after finding out I couldn't do online anymore. And seeing her come up with an in-person schedule for me without talking to me about it after I told her a very real, very personal reason as to why I couldn't even do college in person anymore. After we moved to our new town, my boyfriend, who's 19, found out that he has to share a room with his 13-year-old brother.
Oh, it sucks.
He didn't want his stuff in the room he's sharing because his brother likes to touch stuff that doesn't belong to him. So he asked me if he could keep his stuff in my room, and I happily agreed. Then his mom told me that I had to tell him to get his things out because I needed my space. I told her I didn't mind, and I gave him permission to after an entire argument went down and I was in the car alone with her. By the way, you'll never be alone if you join us live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Just tap our profile. And there is a little bit left, but what do you think?
Again, like just such an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah.
Of, like, it's so amazing
Necessity.
Like it is a necessity. It seems like OP has nowhere else to go. It was extremely kind and compassionate for OP's boyfriend to let her stay at the house. And yet at the same time, they're continuously overreaching. They're continuously being controlling and changing their mind without communicating about it. And so it's hard. I'm curious if any conversation has happened with them from either OP, which might be hard, or OP's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Of like coming at it from like a, hey, you said this thing and now you're saying this thing. It seems like this is a pattern of you continuously switching up rules or reasoning of rules. And I
do think that the boyfriend would have to do that.
For sure.
Yeah. But just because her place in the house is so...
not respected?
Well, not respected, but it's just so precarious. Like, she could get kicked out and she would have nowhere to go.
For sure. Just to reiterate, like, the birth control thing was, like, possibly the biggest overreach.
So,
like, taking
yeah.
away her body
that
autonomy.
was the worst one.
That was wild. Now making an in-person schedule for her.
Yeah.
It feels like it's getting more and more as she gets older, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, you would think that. Before anyone says anything, I understand their house, their rules. The rules wouldn't have been a big deal to me if they had just communicated their true intentions behind the rule, instead of giving us one reason and changing it or claiming they never made it halfway through. I'd like advice on how to handle my feelings on all of this if I'm wrong for being upset. And that is the end. But you are not wrong for being upset.
Yeah, OP, you're not the a-hole.
No.
And yeah, at the same time, I think that the next step possibly would be for your boyfriend to talk to his parents.
Absolutely.
See if there's even possibility, if they're even open to being logical and compassionate around this and willing to be, less volatile and less controlling, and then go from there. Hopefully they are willing if it's brought up in a way that's like non-blaming.
Yeah.
And if not, maybe it's come to a point where, like, if it's possible to find another
I was gonna
living
say,
circumstance.
I do think the best solution is to, whenever you can, move out with your boyfriend.
And that's not easy.
No.
But if that's possible, it might need to be
Yeah.
steps might need to be made towards that.